I wanted to welcome you to this educational opportunity that has been presented by our City Commission. I am the City Attorney, Cassandra Jackson, and I have been serving as City Attorney for 5.5 years. As you may be aware, the City Commission is in the process now of undergoing a charter review process, and they will select 10 citizens to serve on the Charter Review Committee. They're in the process of evaluating that, and also they have established a portal whereby citizens will be able to submit their suggestions or recommendations of matters that you would like to see considered related to the charter. What they've asked me to do is to talk in general a little about what is a charter, the purpose of a charter, and then to talk specifically about the City of Tallahassee Charter. So I'm going to be talking about the creation, purpose, and forms of government, as well as the city, some specifics about the City of Tallahassee Charter. So a charter is the foundational and essential legal document for the formation of a municipality. Florida Statutes, Chapter 165, sort of lays out for us what should be contained in a charter. A charter has to be approved by the Florida legislature, and that is usually done by special act. Some of the other requirements that are in Florida Statute, Chapter 165, are that a charter has to be compact and amenable to a separate municipal government. It must prescribe the form of government and then define the responsibilities of the legislative and executive functions. The Florida Constitution, Article 8, also provides that you cannot not allow that local governmental body not to be able to levy taxes. So the government that is created has to be able to levy taxes. Also, if you have a county with a population of 75,000 or less, there must be at least 1,500 inhabitants to have a charter. And then if the county has 75,000 or more, the inhabitants must be at least 5,000 of the local governmental body. Again, as I said, the establishment of a charter and the abolishment of a charter is established by the Florida Constitution as to how this can occur. And if it is subsequently abolished, there must be some ability or some protection of its creditors. In addition to some of the other requirements that are found in Florida statutes, the charter must be approved by a majority of the inhabitants of the proposed municipality. The charter is, in a sense, a compact. It is an agreement between the governed and the government as to how you want to be governed and the extent of that government that you wish to have. So it is the basic provisions of the organization of the government. It has the forms of the government, and we'll talk a little bit more about that momentarily. The National Civic League states, a good charter sets before the citizens a clear picture of their power and responsibilities, and before the officials and employees a statement of their duties and mutual interrelations. A charter should contain details of such importance that they could not be changed by a simple ordinance, but rather require public referendum. There should be a happy medium between too much and enough. Things that we know will change rather quickly or certainly aren't subject to being around for a very long time, such as a fee for services, you wouldn't place in a charter. You would place that in an ordinance. Two statutory requirements are that it must prescribe the form of government and clearly define the responsibilities of the legislative and executive functions and not prohibit the legislative body from levying taxes. There are certain matters that are stated in Florida statutes, Chapter 166, regarding matters which can only be changed by the referendum of the people. The creation and existence of a municipality, the terms of elected officers and the manner of their election, the distribution of powers among elected officials, and matters pertaining to appointive boards, Also, any change in the form of government and the rights of municipal employees. If any of those matters are covered by the city charter, then they can only be changed by a referendum of the people. There are several forms of government, and the City of Tallahassee's form of government is the council-manager form of government. There is no specific requirement in law that there be a specific form of government, and we'll go through and talk about each one of these, starting with this council-weak mayor form of government. With a council-weak mayor, what you will find is that the mayor's position rotates among the commissioners. The council has the collective control of the administration of the city, including the hiring of employees, the management of property, and the appointment to boards and committees. We have a sort of a hybrid form because our mayor does not rotate. Prior to 1996, it did rotate among the commissioners, but now we have an elected mayor, and we'll talk more about that also. So a council strong mayor. In this instance, the mayor serves as the chief executive, has significant control of the administration of the city and influence over policymaking, has an important appointing and budgetary power, and has significant veto power over the actions of the council. Most cities in Florida that have this form of government have a non-legislative mayor who acts as an elected executive. In large cities, the mayor may establish a chief administrative officer who handles the day-to-day affairs of the city. The mayor has more of a strong political and policy role. In Florida, some cities with this form of government do give veto power to the mayor to some extent. Next is the commission form of government. In this case, there is no chief executive. This form combines both the executive and legislative powers in a governing board serving collectively as the policy-making body. Individual commissioners may actually serve as the heads of departments. The reason for this type or form of government is because it is the belief that there is an increased accountability to the public. Formerly, in this form of government, there was no mayor or city manager. However, now in most instances, there is an elected or selected mayor. And this, in Florida, there are less than 5 cities that have this form of government. In Florida, the use of council and commission does not necessarily indicate the form of government. They're used interchangeably. Council manager, which is the City of Tallahassee's form of government. It is the most common form of municipal government in Florida. The city manager is the chief administrative officer of the city, and the mayor is the ceremonial head of the city with little role in the day-to-day administration of the city and may serve as the spokesperson for the city. The city manager supervises and controls departments and appoints the department directors, prepares budgets and other recommendations for the council's review. This form of government came about as a result of reforms in the early 20th century, and the desire was to have a strong and non-political executive to be the centerpiece of administrative of the government. It was thought in this way to take politics out of the administration of the city. The city manager was subject to the authority of the commission, was to stay out of politics, and the elected officials were not to individually interfere with the running of the city. Some charters, like City of Tallahassee's, provide for removal from office for interference with the duties and responsibilities of the appointed officials. This is contained in the City of Tallahassee Charter, Section 10. It does provide as a counterbalance, however, that the officials, the elected officials, can ask for information from any employee of the city government regarding how the offices, the appointed officials' offices are operated. The National League of Cities is one of the nonprofit organizations that many local governments rely on for best practices. The National League, its mission is to advance civic engagement and to create equitable, thriving communities. It achieves this by inspiring, supporting, recognizing an inclusive approach to community decision-making. It was founded in 1894 by a group of civic leaders that included Theodore Roosevelt. The National Civic League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. The League has adopted in 2021 a model charter, and it continues to recommend the council city manager form of government. They have added an increased emphasis on civic engagement and equity. Attention to social equity is found throughout the model city charter. Adopting an equity lens will reshape decisions and activities across all departments and programs. And because of the importance of this and the breadth of the initiative, it is recommended that the Equity Office actually be a direct report to the city manager. And if you look at the City of Tallahassee's organizational chart, you'll see that our Office of Inclusion is a direct report to the city manager. The Model City Charter also includes a new Article 7 on the role of public engagement in governance. Public participation processes, according to the National Civic League, should expand the capacity for meaningful resident engagement by developing a collaborative working relationship and expanded knowledge of government. So with that general overview of the purpose and the creation of charters, I want to talk a little bit now about the specific aspects of the City of Tallahassee Charter. We roughly have 6 major components. But there are other components, and for example, there is the sinking fund of the commission, which includes the commissioners and the mayor. It controls the retirement and payment of principal and interest on all bonds and making the investments for the city. Another provision in the charter provides for the authority to have public utilities, water, electric, gas, and sewer, both inside and outside of the city limits. There is also the city elections, which are discussed in the city charter, and city elections are the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November in every even-numbered year. The responsibilities of the City Commission are as follows. All powers of the city, except as otherwise provided by the charter, by the Constitution, by the Florida statutes, are vested in the City Commission. Neither the commission nor any of its members may dictate any appointed official's appointment or employment of any personnel. Neither the commission nor any member thereof shall give orders nor make demands of any of its subordinates, of any of the subordinates of any appointed official, either publicly or privately. The commission or any member thereof may at any time request information from any employee of the city related to the performance of the appointed official's duties of office. It is Article 10 that provides that the dictation of orders or interference with the administration of the city shall be grounds for removal. Next, let's look at the mayor. The mayor presides over all meetings of the commission, has a voice and a vote in the proceedings of the commission, but no veto power, may use the title of mayor in any case to engage in the execution of legal instruments, is recognized as the official head of the city, and has the power and has other powers and duties that are conferred upon him by the City Commission. An example of this is City Commission Policy 110, which provides that the mayor has the authority, by virtue of that authority given by the City Commission, to make appointments to boards and committees. The mayor pro tem serves in the absence of the mayor and can perform all of the duties of the mayor. The mayor pro tem is elected annually. This is provided in sections 15 and 16 of the city charter. And then there's the city manager. The city manager has substantial administrative duties in running the City of Tallahassee. He is the administrative head of municipal government under the direction and supervision of the City Commission. He holds office at the pleasure of the City Commission. He or she is to be selected solely based on executive and administrative qualifications without regard to political belief, has the power and authority to appoint assistant city managers who serve at his pleasure and who can act under his authority. Some of the powers that are listed in the city charter for the city manager are that he is to see that all laws and ordinances are enforced, appoint employees based on merit and fitness alone, exercise control and supervision over all departments, set all terms and conditions favorable to the city related to its utilities, attend all city commission meetings and make recommendations to adopt measures in the interest of the city, advise the city commission of the city's financial condition and needs, and submit a budget for review, and act as a purchasing agent for the city. Next is the city attorney or city solicitor, which I am. And this individual is appointed to act as the legal advisor and attorney for the municipality as well as all of its officers, and also serves at the pleasure of the City Commission. The role requires the preparation of all contracts, bonds, and other legal instruments, and to endorse each of these as to form and correctness. No contract is effective without the signature or endorsement of the city attorney. The city attorney prosecutes and defends all complaints in which the city is a party, provides a legal opinion to the city commission, the city manager, the head of departments, and any city officer when there is a question regarding their duties or related to their duties. Appoints assistant city attorneys who act in the direction and supervision of the city attorney and has the same authority when acting under that direction. Next is the city auditor. The city auditor is appointed to act as the head of the audit office and serves again at the pleasure of the city commission. The duties of the city auditor include reviewing and appraising of policies, plans, procedures, accounting, financial, and other operations of the city, and recommending changes or improvements. The city auditor has the authority to audit and verify the accuracy of records related to the taxes and fees that are remitted to the city by other agencies and private companies. As an additional duty, our city commission has appointed the auditor to serve also as the inspector general. As the auditor is authorized to have full access to all city records and personnel necessary to carry out his duties. This is contained in sections 32 and 33 of the city charter. The city auditor is overseen by an audit committee, and this audit committee is composed of citizens of the City of Tallahassee. In section 2-76 of our city code, as an inspector general, the city auditor reports to the city commission and is operationally independent from other appointed city officials. Additionally, the meaning of operational independence means that he should not be prevented, impaired, prohibited from initiating, carrying out, or completing any audit, investigation, inspection, or performance of review. The treasurer clerk. The treasurer clerk, also contained in the city charter, is appointed to serve at the pleasure of the city commission as well, with authority to appoint a deputy clerk who serves at the clerk's pleasure, direction, and supervision, and has the same authority as the treasurer clerk when acting in the name of the treasurer clerk. The city treasurer clerk has to attend all commission meetings, prepare the minutes, and is the custodian of the city seal and all city records and papers. The city clerk is required to sign all bonds, contracts, and other legal instruments, and no contract is valid unless signed by the city clerk. He is to be the custodian of all monies of the city, receiving and collecting the same, and investing monies per city policy. Section 46 provides he is the custodian of the records, Section 51, the custodian of funds. Section 47, he also has the power to administer oaths. In Section 50 of the city charter, you find that the treasurer clerk has to determine fund availability, meaning he is supposed to assure the commission that any funds, that any contracts which we have or any obligations that we have the monies to cover those obligations. A final section for discussion is the ethics board. This provision in the charter is relatively recent. It came about in 2014 as a result of a citizen initiative and petitions. There was a referendum and it was placed in the charter. It speaks to a policy statement as well as a board and an ethics office. The policy statement provides that the proper operation of a responsible government requires officials and employees to be responsible to the people and not inappropriately influenced by special interest. Public confidence in the integrity and transparency of government, and the public office is not to be used for personal gain. Finally, the making of government decisions and policy is to be in the best interest of the community and the government. The Ethics Board develops an ethics code and has jurisdiction, and the jurisdiction of that code is over the officers, employees of the City of Tallahassee, whether they are elected or appointed, paid or unpaid, over members, officers, and employees of any boards, commissions, or committees of the city. The Ethics Office is operationally independent, and it is under the exclusive jurisdiction of the board and discharges the duties of the board through a required ethics officer or director. The Ethics Board and office is funded, however, by the city. The board structure is to ensure independence and community participation. Again, it is under the exclusive jurisdiction of the board, the Ethics Board. Some of the board's duties are to assist the City Commission in the development of the Ethics Code, develop bylaws and due process procedures for the administration of the Ethics Board, manage a citywide ethics hotline, manage and coordinate mandatory ethics training, refer ethics and corruption matters to the appropriate enforcement agencies, recommend proposed ordinances, resolutions, or charter amendments to the City Commission in all areas of ethics and corruption, and investigate complaints and levy any fines for violations of the Ethics Code, which has been approved by the City Commission. It also can employ staff to serve in the Ethics Office. The hotline, which they manage a citywide hotline, is for the receipt of allegations of local corruption, fraud, waste, mismanagement, campaign finance, and ethics violations. What you find when you look at the city charter is a very well-constructed system of checks and balances. We have a city commission which sits on top and sets the policy. We have a city manager who implements that policy through various initiatives. You have the city attorney who helps to follow through on those matters where contracts are required and to advocate for the city based on those initiatives. You have the treasurer clerk who is responsible for making sure we have the funds for our obligations. And then we have the city auditor who assures the public that matters are being carried out in the proper way. With that, I will take any questions that you may have.
I'm Harry Brown. When I started to study anything about the city charter, I read that the city charter was written on December 9th, 1825, But I see up here you have something that the city charter came in at 1889 or something. Why is that? Where has all this information been?
Thank you for your question. You can have a seat. So what we have is a situation where the city was a territory, and then in 1884, it became an incorporated municipality.
Madam Attorney, I have two questions. I'd like to know what cities, if you know, in Tallahassee that, I mean, in the state of Florida that do operate with a strong mayor. So, my other question is, what is the process or doing this charter review that citizens should follow if they have an interest in making certain changes to, let's say, the ethics board? And then, I'm sorry, and I noticed you did not say the citizen police board as one of that. So if you could expound on those two things.
Okay, so the only city that I can recall at this time that has a strong mayor is the city of Orlando. Do you have to tell me what your other two questions again? So I'll deal with the Citizens Police Review Board first. So it was created not by city charter, but by city ordinance. So that was actually the city commission deciding that they thought that a Citizens Police Review Board would be of benefit to this community. And so they passed an ordinance providing for one. So it is not in the city charter. And that's good? Okay. Yes, sir.
All right, Bernard Stevens. I got three questions. First question is it true that if the citizens started a petition and we had the amount of votes to change something on the city charter, from my understanding, if we did do that, if our language is not correct, that it comes back to the city commission and they could reject what the people have petitioned the government for?
So there is a process. There are a couple of ways in which the charter can be changed. It can be as a result of an ordinance that's been passed by the city commission that then might go to referendum, or it could be changed as a result of a citizen initiative with 10% of the population agreeing to have something placed on the ballot. The city commission, usually what happens if there is a challenge regarding language, it goes to the courts, and the courts determine whether or not the language is clear.
So with that being said, then we're not doing the will of the people, because if somebody doesn't like the language and what the citizens have petitioned the government for, that gives them the opportunity to push time back in the court. So you're really not doing the will of the people.
So actually, the courts are not determining the substance of the issue. They want to make sure whatever you're trying to communicate is being properly communicated to the public.
All right. So my next question is, Section 8 of your city charter, I find it hard to believe that the candidates that are running for office, the verbiage that is inside of that basically says that a candidate cannot talk about positions, nor can they talk about future employment or anything in regards to the city. So if our American democracy, when governors or when presidents running for office, they are allowed to discuss basically their appointments of what they would like to see. So I feel as if we would be constraining what we are really trying to relay over to the people. So with the disqualifications inside of that, do you not feel as a city attorney that that is completely biased and not transparent to a candidate?
I'm not clear totally on your question, but as a candidate, and I'm just speaking generally, a candidate usually can state whatever position that they hold.
Okay, so I'll read it for you so you can understand. It says, "No candidate for office of mayor or the city commission, nor any candidate seeking nomination in any primary election for such as office shall promise any money, office, employment, or any other thing of value to secure the candidate's nomination or election. A violation of these provisions of any of them shall disqualify a candidate from holding the office if elected, and the person receiving the next higher number of votes who has observed the foregoing conditions shall be entitled to the office."
I'm not certain if that is actually in the charter,
Well, I'm looking at it on talgov.com in section 12.
but at any rate, it sounds like to me that it's indicating that you cannot issue a bribe to get votes.
So
You can't do that.
That language would have to, it should just say bribe, but it's basically saying that if I say, for instance, that I want to replace this, that, then the third, if I end up saying that and somebody observes that, then with that being said, I could be disqualified from that.
If challenged, if you tried to offer a bribe to get votes, you could be challenged, yes.
And then my last question. So when it comes down to the city manager, basically what I'm asking is, when it comes down to the city manager, he's pretty much the highest paid individual in the government. And with the city commission, how is it that these individuals elect one person to supersede over the city when the residents have elected the city commissioners to pretty much govern our government? So in a sense, we have a city manager who's pretty much responsible for the employments and this, that, there, and the third, but you also mentioned that the city commissioners can also approach employees or, people that's in an appointed position to pretty much, seek out, I guess, how things are going with an appointed official. So basically my question would be, when it comes down to the city manager, do not any of these 5 individuals participate in employment and HR practices when it comes down to the employees that work for the city?
Thank you for your question. So what the charter provides is for the city commission to select the appointed officials. So generally speaking, the city commission would interview and decide who should be the particular appointed official, whether that be the city manager, the city attorney, the treasurer clerk, or the auditor. Those decisions rest within their sound discretion as a body. And that person selected would have the duties as laid forth in the charter. And the other question that was asked about how can a citizen actually participate in this charter review process, one of the ways that the City Commission has set up, other than, of course, you can attend any of the meetings of the City Commission, is to participate by putting your request or your suggestion in the portal that will be on talgov.com, where you can put your suggestions and recommendations. Are there any other questions?
Hi. You'll have to excuse me. I'm still kind of like learning about some of this stuff. So does the commissioners, do they appoint the city manager?
Yes, so the City Commission selects the city manager, yes.
Okay, is there, so as long as those commissioners are in their seats, they can appoint that manager however many times they would like, or?
Yes, they can retain, the city manager, like all the appointed officials, has a contract. That contract can be renewed. It has a specific term, but the city commission decides who will be the city manager. Those are the only people that the city commission can appoint or employ are the appointed officials.
Okay. How long is their term usually for, specifically for the city manager?
Actually, all of the appointed officials have a term of 5 years, and that term can be renewed in increments of 2 years.
This is just something I've been curious about. When the Office of Inspector General was formed and the city auditor became the Inspector General, was there a charter amendment?
There was no charter amendment. I was asked to construe whether the duties of the Inspector General could be subsumed within the duties of the city auditor. It was my opinion, if you read the duties of the city auditor, those are very similar to the duties of the Inspector General, and so he could also serve in that capacity.
The title of city auditor is maintained.
Yes.
Just one other little question. On your slide 6, it says a charter should contain details of such importance that they could not be changed by a simple ordinance, but require a referendum. How is that determined? It seems kind of vague.
Well, I listed some items where in chapter 166, section 166.021 of the Florida statutes, there are specific items that cannot be changed except by voter referendum. But after 1973, we were given home rule powers in 1973. So unless it's one of those items, or it has been changed since 1973 by voter referendum, it can be done by the city commission by ordinance.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to come back and get a little bit more clarity in regards to the strong mayor. I'm not sure that with a strong mayor, the city of Orlando have such limited seating of 4 additional commissioners. And with it being in the air about us adding additional commissioners to our commission, I'm just kind of a little concerned about that. That's more of a comment. But my question is in reference to our current custodial rights. As you are aware, recently our city commission gave up its custodial rights to this building to the city manager. And I'm thinking, based upon your explanation, there are certain things cannot be changed without a referendum. So if you could kind of list, because that infringes upon the citizens' rights. And so, and I'm not saying that it was illegal because it was done by the commission. My only question or need for clarity is that one of those issues should have come to us as a referendum.
No, it is not.
Madam Attorney, so if the citizens decided to petition the government to have the city manager to be an elected official, not appointed by the city commission or the mayor, but if we decided, the residents of Tallahassee, if we decided to petition and we got 20,000 signatures to say that the city manager position should be a position that should be elected by the people, how would that play out if that was the language that was put on a petition and the citizens, all registered voters, pretty much signed off on that? How would that take place?
So just like any referendum, the Florida statutes basically provide if you get 10% of the electors of the jurisdiction, you can get a matter placed on the ballot. So that would be the process. You would collect those petitions. They would be verified by the supervisor of elections. And if they were cleared, then they would be, the item could be placed on the ballot. A petition can be drafted to that effect, yes.
I'm hearing everything about commissioner, city manager, auditor. everything else, but I don't hear a thing about any city employees. Where do city employees fit in this so that they don't get beat up on? I can say, like, I got beat up on for 20 years, 19 years and 3 months here with the City of Tallahassee. I was going through the abuse and harassment here. I went to a city commissioner, Paul Bailey, and he said, Harry Brown, this is John Paul Bailey, who was the commissioner. He said, Harry Brown, he said, nobody's ever had a problem with your work. He said, what the city manager is doing to you is wrong. He said, but I cannot help you because there's nothing I can help you about because of this city charter. Now tell me what the city charter have to do with that then, and it has nothing to do with it now.
Thank you for your question. So the city charter is set up in such a way that the appointed officials are responsible for the hiring and firing of employees that are under their jurisdiction. It specifically provides in the charter that an elected official is not to interfere with the management of employees. So there is a separation there.
So the employees suffer. Who's going to step in for the city employees?
So as I said, the process or the way in which our government is structured and the reason why these came about as a result of reforms that occurred in the 20th century, which you want to have a separation between the elected official and employment in order to make sure that decisions are made based on fitness to serve as opposed to any other reason.
So don't you see that there needs to be a change? And a change should come immediately. Because city employees are suffering. I talk to city employees now who are still working, and they say the same kind of thing that was going on here for years is still going on today. Certain employees are getting placed in positions and not even given an opportunity to bid for these positions. Only favorite people are put in these positions, such as people's friends, their families, and that kind of stuff, and it should stop.
Thank you for your comment.
That's one question. You go ahead and answer that.
I don't have a response to that question. I didn't see it as a question.
I'll give you another one. The city manager appears to be operating from an autocracy. He's doing everything on his own. When the police officer came from St. Petersburg, Florida, to apply for the position, it was already understood that he was going to be employed. But when he got up here to take the position and sat down with Reese Gold, everything changed. That police officer picked up his property and went back to St. Pete. Now, why does the city manager have so much authority? He seemed to be running it by himself because when the man did not take that position, the person on the selecting committee, he suggested that Reese Gold that it goes back to the committee to be reviewed. Reese Gold didn't do it. He did what he wanted to on his own. That shouldn't be. This is the people's government, not Reese Gold's government, and not this daisy's government, including you. Okay? Can you answer that?
I don't have any response to your question.
Why are there, not only me, I'm sure there are people sitting out there who want responses to such questions. Why can't we get them? So that means if we're not getting responses, this government is going to continue to be operated like it's been operated for years. There's something need to be done for employees and the way this government is run. That's why I'm here today. That's why I come to this commission all the time, letting you know what kind of problems I had when I was here for 19 years and 3 months. I served honorably in the Air Force for 21 years, put my life on the line for people like you and people sitting up here on this dais. And I come here back to my hometown and the government and get treated like a dog. I mean, I got a book that's coming out. My book is entitled, I Overcame Evil with Good, Prayer, Humility, and Compassion. I gave my best to this city and got treated like a dog. And after 19 years and 3 months, with no disciplines in my file until the city manager decided to put 3 in there in the last 3 months that I was here with this city, and they were all lies. And then I got run out of city government with a gun at my back by a plainclothes police officer that Tom Cole brought in to do it. And this is not the way an employee should be treated. So why isn't there something in this charter that states something like that to help employees? There should be something done. Do we want this kind of government? We don't want this kind of blacks out here, whites out here. They don't want this kind of government. We should have a decent and ethical government. And why you got an ethics committee, why haven't they said something about what's going on with city employees?
Do we have anyone else who has questions regarding the city charter?
Can you explain again what the commissioners, you said that I guess the city manager kind of puts it into place, and what do the commissioners do?
So the city commission is responsibility for setting the policy for the city commission. If you looked at the city's strategic plan, which is online, you will see some of the policy they have established regarding the city of Tallahassee and their direction. They make policy decisions, and that usually appears on the city commission agenda.
Okay. And so they develop and come up with the policy and strategic plans. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Another question. Oh, in relation to the ethics board, when and how often do they review that?
When does it meet?
Yeah, like when does that renew, or how do they look at, do you know the process for that?
So the ethics board is established by the city charter. They meet monthly, and they provide recommendations annually to the city commission as to any modifications they would like to see in the ethics code. Any other questions about the city charter?
I will tell you, I was here at this city for 19 years and 3 months, and I saw so many wrong things done. So now, tell me, when will this city charter be placed so somebody can go on Google it, and see an up-to-date city charter? Because the city charter I read and recommended that other people read, they went to and read the same thing I read that said the city charter was established on December 9th, 1825. So when was this established? I know when you said it was established, but I don't believe a word of it because I know what happened. When I went through some stuff, and then I went and found a lawyer one time, and I told the lawyer what had been said at this commission meeting so he could use it in my defense. When the lawyer got the tape, there was nothing on that tape about what was said. That's how the city of Tallahassee know those things that they can be charged with. They'll go in and delete it. That's the kind of dirty stuff I have experienced this city doing. And who's to say that's stopped being done? Let's get us a decent government here that everybody is pleased. And later on, you'll hear me read about the policy pertaining to severance pay. You said I didn't deserve severance pay, but I will read you what the severance pay says. And I do deserve severance.
We need to have a question on the city charter, if you can. Sir, you can come forward.
So you mentioned, so the appointed city officers, such as yourself and the city manager, they come in 5-year terms, renewed contracts for every 2 years. What does the removal process look like, at least in the city commission?
So the appointed officials aren't removed they have terms based on a contract. And so they serve still always based on the will of the commission. So if the commission desires to retain an appointed official, then the appointed official will be retained. They always serve at the will of the city commission.
So can they be removed prior to the end of that contract?
Yes,
And so would that have to be voted on by a city commission?
yes.
Okay. I think it was also mentioned that the CPRB is not in the city charter. You didn't talk about anything regarding the police at all, and the police are mentioned in the city charter. So could you explain exactly what?
So basically what I said was it is the responsibility of the city manager to see that the laws, the law enforcement, that they're all obeyed. So the police department is a department that is under the direction of the city manager.
What departments are under the administration or under his umbrella, the city manager's umbrella?
Almost all of the departments really are under the operational departments are under the city manager, the city attorney responsible for legal matters. The auditor is responsible for auditing and has a department of auditing. The treasurer clerk has a department that is under his discretion regarding investments, the public records, bonds, et cetera. But the remainder of the departments are under the city manager.
I wanted to go back to the other question I had earlier. How often do the commissioners and the mayor meet with the ethics board, or how do they confer?
They don't. They are operationally independent. So they basically the ethics board takes ethics complaints based on the city's ethics code. They review those complaints and determine whether or not whatever facts are presented to them are a violation of the code, and then they would move forward if they thought appropriate to any investigation or decision. But they are operationally independent, and that was how it was intended to be, so that they would have the ability to make their decisions in an unbiased way.
And what do those decisions go towards? Because I know if they're separate, how does that kind of join in or intermediate?
Well, if there were a violation of the ethics code, there would be a fine or penalty.
Okay, and does that go for anyone? So that's citizens or?
No, it only applies to city employees and officers of the city.
Okay, would that go for elected? So would that be towards elected officials as well, or no?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, last question. I just need some clarification on this statute, Florida Statute 166.03, subsection 4 and 5. It says, there shall be no restrictions by the municipality of any employees or employees group political activity while not working in the referendum changing employees' rights. A municipality may by unanimous vote of the governing body abolish municipal departments provided for in the municipal charter and amend provisions or language out of the charter which has been judicially construed either by judgment or by binding legal precedents from a decision of the courts of the last resort to the contrary to either the state constitution or the federal constitution. So can you kind of clarify on that about the city charter and what I just read?
Unfortunately, I can't give you an off-the-cuff legal opinion on that.
So it really wasn't a legal opinion. It was just basically referring back to Mr. Brown. So when it comes down to the employees, I mean, we really have no process or due process, if you will, within the city government when it comes down to the employees. So if the employees file grievances and they're not happy with the outcome, then the next step for that would be nothing. But in the Florida statute, it also says that the chief of police, if he's about to be terminated at any given time, that he can come to the next city commission meeting and pretty much plead his case on record. So basically what I'm trying to figure out is, how is it that one employee gets that opportunity, but the rest of the employees, when it comes down to how they feel about the government itself, when it comes down to the city charter, how is that not recognized?
The city employees have the ability through our policies and procedures to seek redress. They have due process rights under the human resources policy. So that is the end, bringing to a closure this educational session on the city charter. I definitely appreciate your participation and your willingness to take your time to come out and listen. Thank you.